I was going to start off in A mode because, you know, this bike, the problem it's had is the reputation with the modes. A mode being too abrupt. I think you pretty much have to just do a lot of clutching. So I'm going to shift into A mode here real quick. Once I figure out where everything is. As opposed to the turn signal. Of course, it's not exactly easy. Where's the damn mode button? Standard A mode. Alright, a little bit too soft anyway today. Okay, so we're in A mode now. I know where the horn is. All right, let's go catch him. Sorry about that. All right, so I guess it's not too bad. You just have to be a little bit familiar with the bike to really deal with it. Bike doesn't really have that much power, so it's not that much. It's really, you have to have at least, 10, 20, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes on it to get used to the power. I just don't like the handlebars on this bike. They're just too high. I think it's a waste to have the bars up this high. And the pegs are not as far forward as I remember, or back I should say. So it's not so bad. This bike has been down also. It's tweaked a little bit. The bar's bent a little bit. And it wants to ride a little bit to the left. I'm telling you, it doesn't take much, man. They say sometimes they get a little bit bent with shipping. And that happens, I guess, if you tie the bike down by the handlebars. That's one problem. I'm right around here at 6,000 RPM. Third, I just don't think it has all that much power. It has decent power. I think it's more like 750. Now it's okay. Nothing I would say is too much. I think this would be an adequate starter bike. But then I'm jaded, I guess, to that extent. I think it would be an adequate first bike. Let's not say starter bike, okay? Let's say first bike. It's not too bad. I think I could totally get familiar or comfortable with this after so many miles. And you do kind of have to do more clutching work than if you could just, gently twist it. I mean, so it's just nothing to ride it, with the partial throttle. This one's, it's gonna keep you on your toes. Let's put it that way, like that. So you're not gonna cruise a lot with the clutch close, because there's too much play in that throttle, and there's too much power right when you twist it. So we're gonna have to use my second or third law of motorcycle riding, combination of first, second, and third. Jesus, just hit those bumps and it's like bucking. Because it is dramatically different than my 12R, in that it just is a lot more sensitive to the throttle than my bike is. But it just doesn't have the power of the 12R. It just isn't there. It's much more of a on-off transition, but I wouldn't say that it is a huge problem. I'd say it's something you got to keep in mind. Sorry, didn't want to start. All right. Much more lean forward. But it's got a much better throttle response. Off idle, much more. I guess it's the degrees of turn and the responsiveness of the throttle. How quickly it comes in nice and predictably. Now, if the other one was like this, it'd be really awesome. So the pegs are, you know, a good couple inches higher, maybe. The bars much lower, much tighter. And the other thing I like about it right now is the grips are too up. I mean, the controls are too up. So I have to actually bend my hand back to use them. Now this is I think it's really hard to complain about this as a beginner bike. It has very modest power off idle. You can rev the hell out of it. The only thing that's really difficult about it is the riding position. You have to get used to riding it like this. It's not easy. I mean, I'm pretty far over, but the engine is so mellow, it's crazy. The one thing I like about the R6, I have to admit, you know, from the first time I rode it, I was like, wow, this thing's really twitchy, and the rake's really steep. It's most modern bikes are much more aggressive than my old bike was, you know, my FZ-1200. So in terms of the rake, you know, that's a mid, say a quarter turn to 8,000 RPM, more than adequate power. One thing I don't like is the kickstand is right where my toe is when I'm sitting up. I mean, one of the reasons I took this bike was because I used to hear people complain about, oh, sport bikes just so you can ride them for, you know, long distances. I'm telling you, 65 miles an hour, the wind is holding me up. There's almost no pressure on my wrists. The only problem I would really worry about is making sure I extend my legs a couple times after a long ride, because my knees tend to lock up after they've been bent for a while. But this, I can ride this for hours like this. There's a little bit of tension in my back because I'm holding myself up a little bit with my back, but there's no pressure on my wrist. I'm just like holding on to just holding on to the handlebars, and I don't have to pull myself. Like my bars, my ZX-12 are too high, and I have to pull myself forward. This bike you just sit like in a zone, and it's like, okay, let's go. You want to go? You want to go? Let's go. But it doesn't have overwhelming power. It's adequate power on a chassis which is ready to roll. I mean, honestly. Now, I think what you have to worry about, see, I got full throttle here, and it just mildly, gently came in, you know. I think what you have to worry about on a bike like the ZX-6R is the brakes are too strong for most riding. They're really just two-finger touch brakes, and the next thing you know, the fork is coming down and you're right up on the front wheel. The Yamahas tend to have a more mellow, at least the street brakes, and they're much more safer, I think, for the street rider. Cruising along in sixth gear, 66 miles an hour at 6,000 on the nose. It's a little high, especially, you know, I guess normal for 600. Now, yeah, this is much more. The seat's lower, at least it feels lower. Bars are not quite up in your face as the FZ-09. Much tighter together. Grips, much better off idle, obviously, as you've probably heard by now. It's more like a step-through motorcycle. I don't like the fact that the bars angle down. So, but you know, it's easy enough to ride. If you're just looking for something to ride, this thing is fine. And that's one reason why I wanted to ride it again. I rode it the first time in Johnstown. It's sort of like an a yuppie motorcycle, let's put it that way. Much more sedate bike than the others. You know, you can feel the twin rumble already. I'm at 4,000 RPM. Just pulling out of here. I mean, this is a get you down the kind of road kind of bike. The tendency to drop it down instead of turning it because the bars are so long. Back away from the rake's so much higher. You have to be careful not to just sit up and drop the bike down, I guess. I'm hoping this guy doesn't do anything really stupid on this bike. And there's always at least one guy. And these two juveniles, I can see they're already getting a third degree for this guy. Just making sure they don't slingshot out. So here we'll be able to see if we can keep up with an R6. 7,000, 8,009, no. Full throttle. I didn't see that car, where he came from. You know, I had to work it to get it up to 62 miles an hour. And that's why I never pull out in front of traffic. You always use that merge lane, you know, almost to the full extent. You don't wait till the last second to get off of it, but you always use your merge lanes because you never know when somebody's going to come popping around you and run up from behind and hit you. So no, you're not keeping up with an R6 on this bike, not to mention an R1. But it moves. You know, it's not going to get you any acceleration awards, but it moves. I would feel a little bit more comfortable than on a Ninja 300 in terms of the power. But I don't think it's much faster than a Ninja 300. I have to take back my initial estimation of it. Of course, it doesn't help to have the damn tachometer. These brakes are not all that impressive either. Does not help to have the damn tachometer so small, so hard to read, and you're trying to use all the RPMs. But on the other hand, it will run out of power well before you reach red line at about 8,500, 9,000 RPM, so you're not going to run into too much trouble. These guys are about... But, you know, here I am, you know, on this bike with maybe, 75 horsepower peak, and keeping right up with them, at least cruising down in traffic. I just feel, and I got the feeling right there when that car was next to me, this bike is barely able to outrun traffic. That's where the real problem is with these smaller bikes, the 300s and so forth. And this is a 700, you know, it's a twin 700, whatever. That's one reason I wanted to ride the FZ-06R, because I have a sneaky suspicion that the 4s are significantly more powerful than the twins at higher RPMs. And that's what you're getting when you pay the extra money for a 654 versus a 650 twin. Now, at the low to middle RPMs, they're about the same, and that's what you're saving when you buy the twin, is the extra cash that a 4 would cost you that you don't really need. Third gear, 70.